a number of years ago, had earthquakes in Montreal and felt them in Georgetown, Ontario,
Mm,
way back. But this is all part of the planetary warming. It's not just about global warming in the sense of the air. It's also the structure of the Earth is at risk as well. Again,
yeah.
and like I said before, I spent a lot of time on this, and my book sort
Mhm.
of focuses on that.
Mm,
Um, the novel I wrote, which is based on a scientific theory, which, not being
mm,
a scientist, it might not be accepted as such, but it's based on scientific theory and test.
mm,
But and we are seeing this more. We're getting extremes. We're having more earthquakes, more volcanic eruptions from
Mhm.
volcanoes that haven't erupted for some time. You're seeing the extreme weather in terms of the cyclones, the hurricanes that are coming out of the Pacific.
mm.
You're seeing countries that are being inundated with mudslides because of the excess of rain.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
The
you get the
fires, isn't it?
wide flooding.
Yeah.
It's extensive. It's
It's
Yeah.
not
extensive.
sounding
It's
very
always
bright.
been so, though, hasn't it, Will? There's always been climate change, hasn't there?
Well, there has been, but yes, there's been climate change. But if you go back 150 years, or if you went back 50 years, I know, or 60 years, as a boy in Britain, the seasons were segregated. You could pick your
Oh,
season.
yeah.
Okay, you knew what was going to happen. You knew when to
Yeah.
plant, and we didn't have the extremes of weather to the same degree. If you went back a few hundred years before that, yes, we had
Mm.
climate change, but industrialization significantly has changed the climate throughout the world in the last 150 years. That's a
It
definite.
seems to have just speeded everything up. There has always been change, but it was slow, and
Yeah.
the
Well,
the
if
climate, what man is doing to it with the fuels is speeding everything up. It seems.
well,
Well, the
that's true, but
greenhouse gases are stopping us having an ice age.
Yeah.
They
well,
they kept
that's
saying
yeah,
we would do an ice age, but because of the greenhouse gases,
yeah.
we're
Um,
Well,
not.
the thing is, I think it's all natural, but that's life. Right. I'm
and you're back, Carl. We
a
all good.
Hatton Declaration 2008 person, but well, yeah, I've been listening. So the other last week was that it was Margaret. She said
Oh,
what about the Prastegas document? What is survived? I want to discuss a little bit about that,
oh,
and
yeah.
there's some sort of little bit of interest to all of us. I think that we've got AD 75, right, and it's the oldest written document, that we know of in Britain, right? Obviously, there's carvings and other things, that people can remotely talk about a language and all that stuff, but that's another lecture altogether. But what we've got is this, for example. Now, this is nice little thing. Obviously, what I wanted to do was to think about Praxitegas and the will. Yeah, that was mentioned. Is Praxitegas' will, does that still exist? We haven't got there yet. We're going to do that in a moment. I said to you last week, and unfortunately, it's in a newspaper cutting. I said to you last week that in London, they were excavating a few years ago, and they found a tablet that related to a transaction of a piece of land, right, in southern England. And I can't find anything about that at this minute, right? So it's in a press cutting somewhere. And as I've been saying to lots of people, if you rely upon solely what's on the internet, your knowledge will be a little bit depleted. And Will agrees with me on this, because Will comes up and finds books that are rather old. We've got old books as well that you get stuff in, can't find elsewhere. So anyway, moving on. So I might find that press cutting and I'll find that reference, but that might take a long time. So this statement, the oldest dated written document in Britain, is a wooden writing tablet from January the 8th, AD 57, found in London. Interesting enough, it details an IOU where freed slave Tibulus owes another freed slave Gratus 105 denarii, 105 Roman silver, for sold goods, revealing early life and business in Londinium. Now, I just want to explain this. This document, there would have been wax in here, right? So what's happened? The stylus has gone rather deep and etched into the wood below. So that's the document. You know, obviously, a wax document you could just wipe over and you could write another note in it. So this is known as the Bloomberg document, associated with the Bloomberg magnate office buildings in London, which is actually the place where they got the Temple of Mithras now. This was preserved in wet mud. And also, some of these tablets included orders for beer, legal rulings, and names of early Londoners, showing a vibrant, functional urban society. Now, I think that that's absolutely amazing. It really, really is. And I don't think we've actually translated all these at this minute, because there's over 400 of them. And wooden tablets with text inscribed that had been in wax, and the wax has decayed, leaving traces in the wood. That's the point. So a bit more about Tibulus in here. The freedman of Venustus to Gratus, freedman of Spurius, for merchandise. So when you go to look at this and you sort of type in, you know, this is you know, these types of things like this, you know, somebody's gouged into this with a stylus. So they reveal daily life in Roman London, and having an idea of the first generation of Londoners. And this was the first generation of Londoners, because we do know that if you compare London with Camel and Junum had been there for hundreds of years before the Romans got there, just around AD 43. London didn't exist. London was a load of marshes. There might be a little archaeologist that's over there. He's going to argue with me and say there is some archaeological evidence to say there were things going on in London, but there was no town. You know, there is archaeological evidence of odd things, but it was just like all a marshy ground, right? I can't say there was before the Romans. That's unfair, because there's some evidence of the odd sort of thing here and there, but as a town, this is the first glimpse. So this is these documents associated with these very early Londoners, and their incredible preservation is due to oxygen deprived wet mud of the buried Walbrook River. The Walbrook River itself is a river that is no longer operational in London. You know, so that's a really interesting thing there. So there's a few other bits and pieces about this. So if we change the image, as I say, I'm obviously using a different format today. So there we go. That's a little bit more clear, isn't it? So that makes it a bit more sensible. Oh, the Rome 18, the low, deep,
Karl,
You've gone.
Karl, your sound's broken up so much and it stopped.
Oh, great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it seems to be back on again. It started to break up and then stopped, but you're back now.
Right. Okay. Don't worry. I will rectify this with the piece of technology that I'm not supposed to be using next week. Very naughty boy. And this interesting thing about these one of these 40, right, relates to orders for goods such as 20 loads of provisions for Verulamium to London after the Boudiccan revolt. So what we know is that London bounced back straight after the revolt, right? And then that leaves us a little question, right? It leaves us a little question. And I've been thinking about this. There's a question that you think about into the new year, right? I've been thinking about this question. Camulodunum's burnt down to the ground. Verulamium's burnt down to the ground. Londinium's burnt down to the ground. So why is it within no time at all people are reoccupying those areas because of the harrowing events that occurred in those three vicinities, right? How did suddenly these people feel safe to go there again? Now, I don't really know what I'm asking there or I'm saying, right? But would anyone want to go back to a place where everybody's been butchered to death? Or is there something not quite right about what we're being told? This is why we've got to look at the archaeology. Interesting enough, within these as well, there's letters and invitations, including an invitation from Claudia Severa to her friend Lupicia, and then basically similar to what's going on with the Vindolanda tablets, but this is early communication, the early days of Rome. And this, you may have seen this at the time. So this is only in the past sort of less than 10 years. So early references, the first mention of Londinium, London, dates to AD 65, around there. And basically it refers to Londinium by name, addressed by the name of Mogontius. Great name that. So what we've got then is obviously they do believe that some of these indicate that there's schools that have already opened up in Londinium as well. Evidence of practice in the alphabet and numbers in these tablets. So people are thinking that Roman civilization is here. It's Roman civilization has come of age. It's actually happening, right? And again, that's a better image of this IOU from the wonderful National Geographic. So as we start to move on, then obviously the big Prasutagus document, this whole Prasutagus thing. And I'm sure you would like to know how they, right? It was called Londinio, right? And that's a bit more into it. That was the first reference of Londinium itself. It was Londinio, right? So this Prasutagus thing, right? Now we'll look at the Prasutagus document, and there is something else as well that I would like to mention, right? But we'll do that at the end. So I did mention about this land grant deed type thingamajig. So I found something from somewhere else in the Roman Empire. So what we got Prasutagus. So let's have an image of Prasutagus, if I can spell it right. Prasutagus. Predicted. Prasutagus. King Prasutagus is dead. Not good. Let's have a little image of him. So Prasutagus, like many of these people, we understand Prasutagus by people writing in the annals down the years, right? So, okay, that's probably a little bit more Hollywoodized. So, you asked the question, Margaret, did you not? Has the document of Prasutagus survived? What does the document say? Right? Here we go. In his will, the Iceni king, Prasutagus, documented details of his inheritance plan. Fair enough. The territory of the Iceni is Norfolk, all the way to the Wash, bit north of Camulodunum, bequesting his kingdom an extensive personal wealth jointly to the Roman Emperor Nero and his own two daughters. Now, we get all of this from the historians, not the actual.
You're breaking up again.
It. This arranged. Great. Have you got this? This arrangement was have you got that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This arrangement was intended to preserve the Iceni's nominal independence as a Roman client kingdom and protect his family's holdings. So key details of the will that we know about, or key details of the will that we think were in it from the historians. Division of assets. Prasutagus left half his wealth and kingdom to the Roman emperor and the other half to his daughters. Now, I always think that that's a bit odd. Shouldn't he have left it to his wife? Political goal of the document, the will. As a long-standing ally of Rome, he hoped this act of diplomacy would secure his family status and prevent the full annexation of the Iceni territory into the Roman province of Britain after his death. Now, interjection. It's in Roman law, when a leader of a kingdom died, the kingdom automatically went to Rome, right? Prasutagus didn't know that, or he was unaware. So Roman disregard, the Romans ignored the will, which had no legal precedent under either Celtic or Roman law, as the Romans typically annexed client kingdoms after the ruler's death. Roman actions upon his death around AD 60 and AD 61, and the Roman procurator Catus Decanus rejected the will's provisions. Roman officials confiscated noble properties, enslaved households, flogged his widow Boudica, and subjected their daughters to sexual assault. So we're told. These brutal actions and the annexation of the kingdom directly triggered the massive rebellion led by Boudica. And this is all based on the historical accounts of Tacitus and Cassius Dio. Now, whether all of that is real, or whether all of that there's some fiction about it, and you know what, folks, I'm going to say it. Did a will exist in the first place? Was there ever a will? Because when you look at this status, right, the Romans are saying that there's a will. Now, how typical was it for a native tribal leader to write a will? That's the question. When you look at the territories of Cymru, Wales, for example, the will was as wrote. It was an accepted will. The accepted will would be basically that if you had 4 boys, your kingdom would be divided amongst the 4 boys. It wouldn't go to the eldest son, right? That was in Cymru, Wales, but in England later on, as you know, which was the law up until more recent times, the household would go to the eldest son, right? Obviously, that's changed now, but the household would go to the eldest son, right? Which is different from the laws of Hywel Dda in Cymru, Wales, which is a very different setting altogether, which was an accepted thing that would happen to your estate, right? So today, as you know, if you don't have a will, your property automatically reverts to the crown until it can be decided who owns what, right? So obviously, that's a modern interpretation of things. So was there actually a will in the first place? Did a will actually exist? Because the only people who tell us about a will is Cassius Dio and Tacitus. There's no evidence of the will existing. And I'm going to say that because there isn't. And why would he have had a will in the first place? So that's food for thoughts, because we're going to start the Roman Britain thing very soon, but obviously we need to complete the Boudica thing before we do that. So one last thing I want to show you is another document, and let's just share the screen. And it's the other document, which should, hang on a minute. Oh yeah, it's not on here, is it? So let's just try and get the reference for this. It's known as a land deed, and it should be, we don't want him, and we want this one here. It's called Roman Inked Wooden Tablet Contract for a Sale of Land. Right. So again, when you look at this, you get into the Roman mindset, right? So it goes Roman, inked wooden tablet. Now this is nice. If it comes up straight away, which one is it? Which well, I have to put in the locality. It's not come up. So, right. So here we go. Oh, what's happened? Where's it gone? Right, go on. So if I type in Roman contract for a sale of land. Now this is what I tried to find earlier on when I was looking for that sale of land document that was found in the Bloomsburg stuff. I couldn't find it. Right, and Tio Vendito. Do you know what? It's not coming up. Oh, there it is. There it is. Got it. Sorted. Right, that document there. Now it's written in a form of Latin, which is basically not the capital form of Latin, but an archaic form of Latin, right? And I found this on the internet. And you know what? This isn't in a museum. This was actually on sale. This was up for sale for nearly £150,000, right? And this is actually this is in an auction in Austria. It says a pair of rectangular wooden tablets made of cedar wood with 30 lines of legal text written in New Roman, I'd say archaic, cursive script, with a fine pen in dark ink on one side with traces of text, perhaps rustic capitals. Reuse the tablets with recessed panels on one side. So it basically, this itself, the details of this, and it goes to say this is one of the earliest documents history to be written, and the example of its kind, joined as complete pair of wooden tablets containing a contract for the Sutherland in the Roman province of Africa during the reign of Emperor Diocletian. So Emperor Diocletian is roughly just a pip in the AD 300s. So these tablets come from a trove of tablets found in 1950 in North Africa. And they did not form an archive for its contents, but rather were stored away to be washed and reused. Apparently, nobody understands these important things. So these are only recently classical scholars have been able to study these. And it basically talks about the following. It talks about a certain person known as Basilia purchases a piece of land from the seller Augustinus for 9,000 denarii. That's 9,000 bits of silver, as witnessed by Lulius Aquarius. The cursive script is often quite perfunctory without, so basically it's just followed. So this tablet itself is fascinating, and there's a few of them that survive. But now what they're finding is similar things like this without the ink being found in London. So this is similar to the ones that we've mentioned earlier on. And obviously there might be other examples of these in places like Pompeii. But if you want this, to own this, guys, it's going for £148,000, a bargain at double the price, and the weight, 0.5 kilogram. And this is written in North Africa, associated with a land document. And more and more, we get more and more bits and bobs to do with the ancient world of Rome. And hopefully next week, the last presentation of the year, we will give you some really nice nuggets with the other piece of technology, and hopefully you've got something out of tonight. So let's see now. We're going to stop that, and we're going to see if there is anyone got anything they would like to say. So let's start off with Where's my thing? Right, let's start off with Margaret. Anything you'd like to say?
Just wondering what materials Tacitus would have used to write on. Would he have used papyrus or vellum?
Right.
Or what?
Okay, there's a fact about Tacitus's work, and there's a fact about Dio Cassius's work that I haven't told you. It was copies. So the original scrolls, the original scrolls, the original work is no longer exists. So they're basically copies of copies of copies. So in other words, what's happened is when, you know, Chinese whispers, somebody could have been looking at Boudica's 2 daughters were sexually abused. Well, it may have started off as Boudica only had 1 daughter. Somebody decided to put 2 in there. And so obviously what's happened, we can't be precisely sure whether Tacitus and Dio Cassius actually said any of this because it's copies. But hang on a minute. But the stuff that we've been talking about today, that in AD 57, that discussion of an IOU, that's real, because it's not a copy. It's actually what was said in AD 57. That's far more valuable than anything Dio Cassius has got to say, or Tacitus, right? Because they are primary documents. That land document from Africa is a primary document. It's actually written from the day in sealed archaeological contexts, and that was what was going on in AD 300. Whereas what Dio Cassius and Tacitus is writing were copies of copies of copies that may have changed. And when we talk about Julius Caesar and his invasion of Britain, I've somehow got to do that and believe it, and I don't. So I've got to try and do it from the point of view that I know something, that there's some evidence, and I've got to try and enlighten it. I've got to try and embolden the evidence, right? And then when you look at the invasions of Claudius, when I say the invasions, obviously they didn't just send 1 boat over. It happened over, quite some months. And we talk about the future Emperor Vespasian marching his army to Maiden Castle, besieging it, and slaughtering everybody inside. And it turns out that is absolute load of rubbish. It's not true. But that's what we were taught at school. And so just Margaret, just ask me the question: what's the evidence for the invasion of Claudius in Britain?
Ask
me the question. Just ask me.
Well, haven't they found evidence of even the Julius Caesar landing? Haven't they found certain things from where he landed and the first? They have found actual evidence from way back then, haven't they?
They found a helmet that they're
helmet,
really not sure when it's from. A helmet that could be from any time, and the problem is,
they find earthworks.
Yeah, we've done a presentation of that, but there were lots of archaeologists arguing at the time that may be later. So when we look at Claudius's invasions of AD 43, I've got to be very careful there, because much of what has been written is wrong, and we've got to try and take a leap of imagination. Forensically is this, right? Forensically, those documents in Londinium, there's a town in Londinium from those documents in AD 56, right? So between AD 56 and somewhere AD 43, which is the possible date that Claudius could have come over, right? We know that the Romans come here eventually, right? So what we've got to do, we've got to work out the other stuff. And that's the problem. It's from you now. Anything else, Margaret?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to have a mince pie after this, and it's got real meat in it. Vegetarian meat. Vegetarian mince pies. Oh, I got to tell you this. Drina. Right, I was playing Santa on the. I did Santa for the third time on Saturday. Right, so I was driving back. I thought, do I or don't I go to McDonald's? So I thought I went to McDonald's. Right, so I went to McDonald's. I wanted a Grinch meal. Right, and when the Grinch meal, you get a pack of socks. Right, you get which I wanted to get for Michelle, and I thought, right, it's my only way of getting this pack of socks. So I paid $8.99 for a vegetarian McDonald's, right? And when I go to the counter, they give you this bag, right, with a thing of with the green bag, which is like a shake, and I say, well, what's this? And they said, oh, when you go to the next counter, we'll give you the fries, and you put the fries in a bag, and you put the shake in, and you shake it, and the fries go all green, and it's like what the type of thing the Grinch should eat, and it tasted of smelly socks, right? Yeah, I don't know where I went with that, but McDonald's is definitely a wonderful place to go, Drina.
Oh.
Anyway, Drina, anything you want to say?
No, thank you.
Right. Okay. Right, we've done Margaret. She's lost. Margaret's lost. Margaret's quiet. Go on, say something, Margaret.
Well, didn't they find evidence of military things? Was it Richborough?
Richborough, yeah.
Yeah. That was
when
from
they
the Claudian invasion, wasn't it?
The slingshots and stuff. Again, we'll look at that with more open eyes. We will. Right, Andy.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Right, and then the last one is Will.
Right, observation. If you go back as far as the Babylonians, the Assyrians, if you come forward to the Greeks, the Romans, and then move through history, every time somebody wrote a good speech and it was recorded, whether it was in a tablet or whether it was in vellum, whether it was in papyrus, it was copied and sent out to other centers and shared with other people. The Assyrian kings wrote his law and he sent it out on a tablet, and it ended up being read in the local square. All this happened even up to the monks of the 11th, 12th, 13th century. They copied out multiple texts of various peoples, and they sent them from one center to another center to another center. And this was throughout the world, the known world at the time. So when you talk about Tacitus and his writings, well, when he started writing out, there would have been copies. They would have gone to the main libraries or the main centers for distribution. And that continued, and that's continued the same as we do today, except we use the internet now.
Yeah, well, but the point I'm making, right, is that that's all true, but none of that original stuff has survived, as far as we know, and it would be great that somebody goes and looks at the library of Julius Caesar's father-in-law in Pompeii and basically says, actually, there's an actual account from a soldier who came over with Claudius, right? That would be brilliant because it's like a primary document, but none of the original writings of anything that's happened in regards to those three characters, none of the original stuff has survived. And the danger is that they've been altered and changed, and we don't really know about the facts. So did Prasutagus actually have a will or not? We're never going to know. Or then again, we might know. We don't know. The thing is, if Prasutagus wrote a will, right? How would he have written it? Who's going to write it? Who's he writing the will for? Or maybe what the Romans did, the Romans wrote the will, right? And just got him to sign it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I
questionable.
don't know. Anything else anyone wants to say? Yeah, what's that?
I
Okay.
said it's all
Anyone else got
questionable.
anything else to say?
So,
Well, I think
I didn't get that,
Prasutagus
Paul.
was the son of like a royal family. He was from a very wealthy background, wasn't he? So
He
he
would have
could
been
well have been
educated.
able to write.
Yeah, I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he didn't, but the point is, did he write a will? Because lots of the Welsh kings, they could write, but they didn't leave wills because it was understood that their territory would be divided amongst their children, right? Because there was no need to write a will. There was no function. It didn't mean anything, right? Because it was understood.
Well, maybe Prasutagus was a little bit naive, because he must have known that the Romans had no regard for women. So maybe this is why he naively thought he'd better put something in writing.
But I think that's probably where we've got the problem, because it's in the law of the Iron Age Britons, women we know were as powerful as the men, and in the Roman state things were different. But it's trying to understand all that, and hopefully in the new year we can look a little bit more about some of these issues and points. So right, next week is the last one this year, right? And hopefully we'll all be here next week, including Roger and Judith and David, trying to stay until the end, maybe. So next week will be the last one, and then I will basically mention that we got the 2 recordings over Christmas. So it'll be an hour long, and you can listen to that on the usual Tuesdays. They'll be ready. So anyone else got anything else they want to say before we go?
Thank you.
Thanks.
No. Anyway, really appreciate you coming this week. So solution to the broadcast will be sorted out for next week. Anyway, good night, Andy. Good night, Anne, Margaret, Drina, and Will. And we'll see you all next week.
Okay. Bye.
good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Carl.
Night,
Bye.
folks. Night.
Bye.
Good night. Good
Night.
night.
See you next week. Night. Night. Are you okay, Anne?
Yeah, I'm just can't find me things. Oh, that's it. I think it's going. There we are.
Night, Anne. See you. Technology was not working again tonight.
It's gonna be the weather, is it?
No, it's just the technology. It's too old.
What can you do about it?
Well, I got something up there that is underused. That £2,000 bloody phone, and I could use it for Zoom, but it's just a bit worried it's going to knock my memory on it out. But anyway, just right. Oh, hang on, it's still on, still broadcasting. So so everybody, many thanks for watching tonight, and sorry about the interruptions. I'm just going to look in the chat box. Nothing there. 1, 2, 3. Nothing in that chat box. 4, 5, 6. Nothing in that chat box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And dun, and press that button 7. Nostalgic, and I'll see